Hi, I'm Cindy Hodnick, your host for Behind the Scenes. We are here in lovely Santa Monica, California with the 2022 design icon, Kathryn Ireland. Kathryn, thank you, first of all, for letting us come out and invade your space this morning. We appreciate it.
A pleasure.
We want to give our viewers a little bit of insight about your career, your influences, your business strategies. So we'll just start off with, tell us a little bit about when you first knew design was going to be part of your life, that it was going to be something incorporated into everything.
That's quite a loaded question. I think I realized that I had it in me at a very young age. I have to say that age 7, I won the needlework prize at school for my patchwork quilt, followed by, we all got to decorate our bedrooms as another school project. And I think it was my apple green bedroom, the paint color, that got me the overall prize of the year at school. But I also just, I used to look at my mother's decorating magazines, World of Interiors, Houses and Gardens, and I just loved houses. And I was very fortunate enough to be brought up in England, Scotland, Ireland, where there's such a sense of history. The architecture is so extraordinary. And every summer, my parents would pile us all into the Peugeot 504, which had 3 rows of seats, and we would be driven through France to Italy to go and stay with my mother's best friend outside of Florence, where she lived in a 15th century castle. So I think just the idea that it was in my DNA, in my bones growing up. Just beautiful places, lovely things. I mean, we had a fisherman's cottage in Scotland where we went for our holidays. So that was a far cry from my other friends' stately homes. But so I think it's the appreciation of all parts of design, the high, the low.
You had a very interesting segue into the actual design industry. Talk a little bit about your early days, I guess, here in the U.S., and then how that transitioned into what you're doing now.
Well, really, I came here almost for a weekend, a little longer than a weekend, and I met a man at dinner and got married, and then had three boys within 4 years. And, every year we had to get a slightly bigger house. We were renting, but believe me, we were hard-working, producing, directing, and we did tons of music videos in the 80s and 90s. And sort of the ones you might know would be Call Me Al, Paul Simon, Chevy Chase, Bangles Walk Like an Egyptian.
Oh, wonderful.
Paul Simon, Got My Mind Set on You. So I then became sort of the art director on all of those music videos, because it was my husband and I just making these, and I was kind of in charge of the look of them. So I suppose that sort of was a way that I got into production and the way things looked. I just also loved interior design, and I opened a little shop in Santa Monica, early 90s, and I just really was selling pillows and lampshades. It was our old editing suite, and then we moved somewhere else, and I was right on Main Street, Santa Monica, and I thought, God, this is such a great place. I must just, do something with it. So that was sort of where I began. And then one day Steve Martin came into the store and he left me a message, and it said, "Don't worry, there's not been a robbery. I bought everything." So that was the beginning of my sort of working career with him. And I then found him in a house here and did a couple of other places for him. I mean, just because he came to dinner. Yeah, just because he came to dinner and said he liked my house. So, it's evolution, exactly. So I had no formal training, except from a very young age, I was lucky enough to experience interiors, exteriors, gardens, furniture, fabrics, and all of that.
So, obviously, I mentioned we're here at your home in Santa Monica. Tell us a little bit about what you've done with this place, how it's evolved over the years as well.
Well, I was in France, and my son Otis, who I now work with, calls me up and goes, Mum, I found you the perfect house. He said, you're going to love it. There's a studio in the back. You don't have to have your office anymore where it is, blah, blah, blah. And I just said, okay. I mean, I trust him that much that I said, okay, you put an offer on it. I did, however, send 2 of my best girlfriends to have a look at it. And they both said, don't be absurd. It's just dreadful. But, you know, we all see things differently. So I flew back. I was on my way back from France. I said, oh, let's put an offer in. And I came here, and I remember walking through this house. There was no pool. There was nothing. There was only that one beautiful cactus. That was the only thing here.
Wow.
The rest I planted. And I just walked straight through. I saw that building, and I go, that's it. Because to have a 2-story studio in Santa Monica is pretty rare.
Incredible.
In this neighborhood.
I read the book where you did the Libby Ranch as well. How did your early sort of design influences then transition into your own properties, whether there, here, the place in France?
Well, I forgot to say, on our honeymoon, and it was February, which is not the best time to see, well, actually it is the best time to see a place because it's at its worst. So we took a drive through France all the way down to the south, and unbeknownst to Gary, he didn't know that my plan was I wanted to buy a house in France because it was so unbelievably well priced. And so we fell upon this amazing wreck of a farm. The same thing, it was like when I came to this house, I just knew it. I walked in, I said, yes, I don't need to go in and see what's going on because I'm going to change it. So I found this place, and I remember going down the driveway, and the views out across the valley towards the Pyrenees was so extraordinary. It was just breathtaking. And he was actually hungry. And he said, do you want a house or something? Do you want to buy a house? And I go, yes. He says, well, let's get this one. Now, can we have lunch? So my advice to anyone who's going house shopping with another person who's going to have to agree to it, make sure they're very hungry.
Bribery.
Very, very hungry. So the house in France was actually my laboratory because I started, building, redoing it. And I tell you what, we didn't have that much money. And so money is sometimes, as we know, the root of all evil. The more money you have, the more mistakes you make, and the more unnecessary stuff you do. So when you've got little money, you really keep it to the minimum, and you really make sure what you choose you're going to like. So it was a very good lesson doing that house. Mm-hmm. So yes, I was my first client, and then I was actually my second client because then we bought our first house in Santa Monica. And over the years, I've always been doing things up for myself and then other people. So I think I really understand how houses work, and having children and animals are important. And so I'm probably not the person you hire if you want to live in a hotel suite.
I will tell you, when we were driving over, I was sharing with the guys that one of the things I love is that in all of your books, the properties you've renovated, there are a few things in common. The flow, indoor-outdoor space, the way that you intersperse found treasures, whether thrift shop, antiques, what have you. And then at the bottom, at the end, this very casual ambiance where there are going to be great parties, laughing long into the night, this type of atmosphere. So it seems like you've done that with all of your properties, and all of those are very timely components right now with the way people like to live. Do you take those same sensibilities to your clients, and how do you convince them?
Yes. Well, I don't have to convince them because I think part of what it is, whether they've seen the books, they've been to my house for dinner, they've come to stay in France, they like the easiness of the way I like to live. Now, we all know that actually I think it's much more difficult to do that relaxed look than have pomp and ceremony and people dressed up in uniform.
Agree.
Because to make things look effortless, you have to be quite organized. And so I think that's sort of the trick. It's like minimalism. If you want to do a minimalist house, all your materials have got to be the the best quality. So I think that's the way I look at my life and living. It's not just the house, it's not just the decor, it's what you eat, it's what you wear, it's the laughing that goes on. It's the way you choose your friends. I know that sounds crazy, but it's
not at all.
It is sort of a lifestyle. So I think the people that are attracted to me are attracted to that easy sense of life. And I think they go, oh gosh, she makes it look so easy. That's how we'd like to live. And by the way, it isn't that difficult. And it gets easier. You just need the components. A couple of candles, some tablecloths and napkins, some pretty shutters, flowers, whatever it is, some pillows.
Yes.
And
the pretty French blue, I guess, of your shutters comes
French
to mind
blue.
when you said that. It was gorgeous.
Because you can hear Buster in the background. Actually, he's quite a good decorative accessory.
Absolutely.
I suddenly realised I'm wearing black. Do you want to come up here? Come on, up you go. Come on. We'll just sit there. I knew he'd join us at some time.
So now, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the business strategies that have brought you to design icon status. Talk a little bit about how your lifestyle brand has evolved over the years and what you hope to impart with that to folks.
How I look at it is I've been lucky enough to have had all the major magazines follow my career from, I don't know, whether it be Vogue, House and Gardens, World of Interiors, Veranda, Elle Decor, House Beautiful, Milieu, all of those have photographed me. So I think over the years I've got a bulk of my work, and I don't really like to tell people what to do. I love the fact that people will look at the books, which I've done 6 now, look at the television show I was on, Bravo's $1 Million Decorator, and I think it's for other people to get some sound bites or find some things that they...
The nuggets.
That they can take away. I don't like to stand there and say, this is the way we do it, because really the whole point of living and decorating is such a personal thing that we all see things differently, and I think that's what makes it so unique and important. And I just see it with my textile collection. Other designers obviously use it in their work, and I go, God, I wouldn't have thought of using my fabric that way. And so it's really, I find it's just a joy. It gives me so much pleasure to see other people enjoying, or whether it's a designer or the client, that they actually have bought fabric, made it into curtains, slip covers, whatever. Because really, at the end of the day, I think that fabric, and anything in your house is like an installation art project, really. That's how I sort of look at it, although it's got to be livable and everything else. So I don't really think of myself as a brand.
Right.
I know a lot of people think of themselves as brands or whatever. I think of myself as me. I realize now, with quite my career is years old now, I know that what I get the most pleasure from is working with fantastic people and people that understand or allow me to do my thing. Because at the end of the day, I'm an editor. I'm there to help people and to edit. It's their house and it's their life. I'm there, I'm going to leave. So they've got to be happy, and you don't want them to have buyer's remorse after I've left. Oh my God, what did she talk me into? And I hear so many people say to me, oh, but they, I had it decorated and they insisted I do this. And I go, well, you got to stand up for them. If anyone's insisting you do something, they're not the right person.
Right.
Get rid of them.
Right.
Axe them. Because it's rather like filmmaking. This is a collaborative art. And it's expensive, as we know. Anything to do with your house.
I do want to talk about your textile line, though, because your fabrics, I mean, they're gorgeous. We were looking through some of them before we started filming. Tell us what's happening with that and what folks might be surprised to know about it.
The sun's come out.
Yeah.
Well, actually, next year, so when this is on the air, my fabric line will be 25 years old.
Oh, wonderful. Congratulations.
Quite an achievement now. And when I go back and I look at all the different designs and colorways, it's it's quite a body of work. So I kind of pat myself on the back for that. And the fact that I'm still in business, it's another pat on the back.
That's a big pat.
It's just been one of those things that I so enjoyed doing. And when I first started in this business, and I really fell into it, I had this beautiful patchwork quilt that I bought somewhere in France at a flea market, and it was on my bed, and I had 3 boisterous boys jumping up and down on my bed, and this patchwork quilt had remained intact for, I don't know, over 100 years until it got to my house. And on the bed, the boys would use my 4-poster bed as sort of their basketball hoop to see who could get the balls on top of the tester. So I looked at it one day and I thought, oh my God, I love this quilt so much and it's falling to pieces. I want to recreate it. I went back to my days of doing a patchwork quilt that I won the needlework prize for. And so I decided I'd look into it, and the next thing I knew, I obviously was going to hand print it, and all of a sudden I found 6 designs, 6 colorways. I went to London and I went to see my friend who ran Condé Nast, and he said, oh, go to House and Garden, go to all the magazines and check to them. And everyone was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. And it was fresh. It was, you know, it very much had its time. And also I still sell my first print today as much as I did then. So it's sort of they've become classics.
They're still fresh,
yeah,
even
still
as
fresh.
Classics.
And that's the whole thing I think about design, interior decorating. As long as you can keep things fairly classic, then they become timeless. Because who wants to have to redo their bathroom 5 years later, 10 years later? You don't.
Right.
And for the house in France, I mean, I walk into my bathroom there, and it still gives me such pleasure. Every part of that house, as it's evolved, gives me huge pleasure. I walk into what was once a cow barn, it's now the dining room, kitchen, and I just love that room.
Yeah.
So I must have done something right.
Well, you obviously, your longevity in business, and, again, I think getting to icon status, though, I think that doesn't come without encountering challenges along the way. What were some of your challenges, and how did you address them?
I think for the most part, I mean, we're all going to have the odd bad experience. Of course we are. Otherwise, we think this is all fun and games, and everyone would be doing it. I think it's keeping people on track. It's helping them understand what it is they want. But I mean, that doesn't come without people second guessing you, going behind your back, getting other people's opinions. And you know what I've learned now is to say no. That's probably, that was the biggest challenge. I'm a yes person. I want to please people. And I think that was the hardest thing, was to say no to people. And to be honest. I'm always pretty honest. But sometimes that's hard. But, it's like anything in life, it's all about the chemistry you have with a client, the chemistry you have with a house. Because I can tell you, I became known as the house whisperer. I mean, after I found Steve Martin his house, and I got a phone call from my great friend Donna Dixon, married to Dan Aykroyd, and Donna said, we're moving back to LA, and, you're the house whisperer, and can you help us? And Danny wants a view of the ocean, and I want to be in an old Spanish, and da-da-da, and there was just like, oh, okay. But I did. I found them a great house. But I don't do that often. I mean, they were great friends and appreciative, and so, you have those relationships in life, and then sometimes you meet people that have maybe, I don't know, seen you on TV, seen you in a magazine, and they end up being your best friends, and you have some great love affair with them and the family, and it's a dream. But to go back, it can work the other way. They're always going to be tricky people. I tell you what I do, all you decorators out there, avoid women of a certain age. They can be tricky. Go look in their medicine cabinet. Actually, I say now, I want to know what drugs are you taking? What antidepressants are you on? Is your husband having an affair? Is your husband likely to have an affair?
And if
I
so,
want to know all that, because otherwise I'm going to be in deep trouble.
Oh my
You know,
God.
the decorating, forget about. Because you do get reeled into becoming friends. You know, it's a very intimate job.
be in someone's home.
Who else
Yes.
gets to see what's under the bed and in the medicine cabinet?
Right, right. Oh, that's great advice.